When Moose picks his foot up, if it impacts the ground here in front of the hip, the foot has to wait for the hip to pass over the top before it can come off the ground. When you do that, ultimately that foot's on the ground for a long time, which means the opposing foot is in the air for a long time. The general concept of sprinting is we want the least amount of ground contact time to create the least amount of air time. So what we're looking for here, go back and just pick this leg up. All right, so we want this foot to land here as the hip is passing over the top, and now it has the ability to immediately come off the ground and drive up. So we're looking for a crescent in the front and a straight line in the back. Crescent in the front and a straight line in the back. So Moose will show you a little bit faster as he lifts the knee and drives and moves across it. Okay? And when he does that, that foot's able to come off the ground. Remember, the hip has to be past the foot in order for it to come off the ground. Otherwise, it's still holding you up. One of the biggest mistakes athletes make is they want to push off both feet. And when they do and they push off that back foot, what happens is they get into this position and all the power is going vertically instead of horizontally. So want to make sure we're pushing off this front foot and we're driving through here. The other part of the back foot not pushing, it'll push 10% of your power, but if it's pushing, it's moving back, and then I'm trying to pull it forward. So I want a slight movement back. I want it to be free to move fast. It has to move fast. It has to drive. Okay, now, when you do it really, really well, that back foot has sat and sat and sat, and I've pushed off the front, and now I'm pulling that back foot. And the reason I have to do that is I'm extending my body from a 90-degree position here, 9 degrees at the hip, and I'm taking time to finish that triple extension. So the back foot's got to wait. It's got to sit and wait. We want to make sure this front leg is 90 degrees, that the weight is right here. And when he pushes, he's pushing through the front foot and pulling with the back foot to create a nice fast movement from step 1 to step 2. So go ahead, Moose. Very nice. Our goal when sprinting is to line up our forces and hit it as hard as we can, to drive the body in a straight line. Obviously, we want to do that under control, but we always want to keep a linear motion as often as possible. Any external rotation allows for movement that's left and right that's not taking us to our ultimate destination. We know that the fastest way from point A to point B is a straight line. Oftentimes on the track, we'll have our athletes use the lane line to run down instead of running in the lane. This allows them to feel the drift when they're running. We oftentimes do a seated running drill to try to keep the hands in a linear motion and not allow across the body motion. When we do that, it allows for a chain reaction. The hands dictate what the legs do. So if I can get my hands going straight up and down and straight forward, then I get the whole body moving in that straight line. So ultimately, we want linear motion as often as possible, zero external rotation. And for most athletes, that external rotation will start in the head and it'll start in the hands. Anytime you let the hands go across the midline of the body, you're going to get a drift at the feet level as well. This series of exercises is probably the one exercise as a track and field coach I wish that every high school athlete did before they came to college and joined our team. The hip girdle is really important from a flexibility and a strength standpoint, but ultimately the ability for the hip flexors to pull the leg up here without the athlete getting in a bad position is the difference between good and great. And we will probably see that with Jacob and Maya right now. We're going to do a basic walkover where she goes over each hurdle with a different leg. So go ahead, Maya. She's got her hands up. So right, left, as she's doing this, and we'll watch Jacob do it. Go ahead, Jacob. Walk up there, hands up. Try to get that up tall. Yep, very nice. All right. That's pretty good. Okay, so a couple of things here. Do you see the difference between Maya? Jacob has moved his upper body back to allow the foot to drift out here and go around. He's protecting that hip flexor because it's not that strong. To do this drill super correct, we want to make sure we're in that good posture again. Shoulders in front of hips, hips in front of the foot. I want to come straight up. I'm over, I'm straight up. I'm over, I'm straight up. If I can, I want to stay on my toes and maintain the hip posture all the way up. Generally, we do this with the hands up. You can use the stick if you want to. We talk about dorsiflexion and how to correctly run. There's a lot of people out there that believe that running on their toes is the correct way to run. Unfortunately, when you run on your toes, a couple of things happen. In general, on impact to the ground, if I'm running on my toe, I'm forcing the hip out of position. I'm contacting the ground too early. It's happening out in front of the hip, which then creates a braking motion, a slowing down motion. So the dorsiflexion and attack of the ground using the ball of the foot is where we want to be. You can tell the foot's landing under the hip. The hip is at the same time passing across and on top of the ball of the foot and allowing us to drive down the track and create momentum in the direction we want to go. The very first thing we teach is dorsiflexion in any drill we do, whether it's a plyometric drill, it's a running drill, it's a drill in the weight room. We don't want people lifting on their toes. We want them on the balls of their feet and moving like an athlete. That's what we call it, right? Move like an athlete. You've never seen anyone run on their toes that looked like an athlete. So attack the ground with the ball of your foot, put the foot down, drive it into the ground and create motion down the track. Anytime we have an athlete that toes out and points their toe, and this happens a lot with gymnasts that come over to track and field, we spend an inordinate amount of time working on pulling the foot down to the ground. We can do this from a stationary position, starting with wall pulls and driving the foot like this, and then we can progress into all our drills, A skip, B skip, and things like that.